Single human dad fixed a giant orc warrior's wagon, unaware. She's the richest princess in the village. Some encounters change your life in ways you don't understand until years later. This is the story of a broken wheel, calloused hands, and the kind of wealth that has nothing to do with gold. The wheel cracked at exactly the wrong moment. Which is to say, the moment wheels always crack. When you're 3 hours from anywhere that matters and the sun is starting to think about setting. The sound was the kind that makes your stomach drop. Sharp. Final. The sound of something expensive breaking in a world where you can't afford expensive things. Gruska Rubyheart heard it and thought several very orcish thoughts that would have made her father proud and her mother reach for a bar of soap. She was 270 miles from home, traveling alone except for Mogra, who was scouting ahead, and her carefully planned incognito journey had just become significantly less incognito. The wagon tilted. Hard. The kind of tilt that says, "I'm done being a wagon now. I'd rather be firewood." She climbed down, all 7 feet of her, and examined the damage with the practiced eye of someone who had broken approximately 47 wagons in her lifetime. This one had the decency to break in an interesting way. The wheel hadn't just cracked. It had essentially exploded. Wooden spokes scattered across the mountain road like someone had sneezed shrapnel. "Wonderful," she muttered in the old tongue. Then, in common speech, "Absolutely wonderful." The irony wasn't lost on her. She was Gruska Rubyheart, daughter of War Chief Mazak the Unbroken, commander of the Red Fang, Stoneback, and Ironjaw clans. She personally owned more gold than this entire mountain probably contained in ore. She could buy 100 wagons, 1,000 wagons. She could buy the carpenter who made the wagons and the trees the carpenter cut down to make them. But right now, on this road, with the sun painting the sky in shades of orange that made her think of fire and bad decisions, she was just someone with a very broken wagon and absolutely no idea how to fix it. The village appeared around the next bend like an apology from the universe. Small. The kind of small where everyone knows everyone's business and half of it isn't even true. 30 buildings, maybe 40 if you counted the ones that were more creative interpretation of architecture than actual structures. And there, at the edge of the village, where the road widened just enough to not be called a path anymore, was a workshop. The sign was hand-carved. Simple. It read, "Ashford and Daughter, Repairs." The repairs part was underlined twice. The man working in the open-front workshop had the kind of hands that told a story before he ever opened his mouth. Calloused. Scarred in places where tools had opinions about being used. Strong in the way that comes from actual work, not the decorative strength of people who lift heavy things to impress other people. Thomas Ashford was 36 years old and looked 45 because that's what happens when you become both mother and father to a 7-year-old while running a business that barely breaks even. He was working on a chair, 3rd one this week, when he heard footsteps that were definitely heavier than human footsteps. He looked up, and then a little bit more up, because Gruska Rubyheart was the kind of tall that made you reconsider your understanding of vertical space. She stood in the doorway of his workshop wearing travel-stained armor that was trying very hard to look common but failing in the way that expensive things always fail when they pretend to be cheap. The leather was too supple. The metal fittings, too, precisely made. But Thomas didn't notice that. Thomas noticed that she looked tired in the specific way people look tired when they're not used to asking for help. "Broken wheel," she said. Not a question. A statement of fact delivered with the confidence of someone who was used to facts doing what she told them. "Broken wheel." Thomas agreed, setting down the chair leg he'd been sanding. "How broken?" "The kind of broken where the wheel had opinions about remaining a wheel and decided to explore other career opportunities." The corner of Thomas's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "Those are the worst kind. Where's your wagon?" "Road. Just past the bend. I can pay. Can you walk back and show me?" Easier than describing it. This was not how these conversations usually went. Usually people saw the green skin and the tusks and the fact that she was large enough to use a grown man as a somewhat ineffective club, and they either got scared or got opportunistic. Scared people quoted high prices because danger tax. Opportunistic people quoted high prices because extortion. This man just picked up a leather tool satchel and waited. Gruska blinked. "You're not going to ask how much I can pay?" "Tools are the same price regardless of how much gold you're carrying." Thomas stepped past her into the fading daylight. "We can talk payment after I know what I'm dealing with. Some things can't be fixed. No point in discussing price for impossible." They walked back to the wagon in silence. Not the awkward silence of two people who don't know what to say. The comfortable silence of two people who understand that sometimes talking just fills space that's better left empty. The wagon was exactly as broken as Groska had described. Thomas circled it once, then knelt down to examine the damage with the same focused attention he gave everything. The wheel wasn't just cracked. It had given up on existence. "Can you fix it?" Groska asked. "Depends on your definition of fixed." Thomas pulled one of the shattered spokes free from where it had embedded itself in the wagon bed. "I can't make it what it was, but I can make it functional. Get you where you're going. Won't be pretty." Pretty wasn't working so well anyway. Thomas glanced up at her, and for just a moment their eyes met. His were brown. The kind of brown that made you think of earth and stability and things that didn't move unless they had a good reason. Hers were amber, the gold-flecked amber that all Ruby Heart clan members shared, a genetic gift that marked them as clearly as any banner. He didn't recognize it. Why would he? This was a village where the most exciting thing that happened last month was Willem's prize pig having piglets. "I'll need to take the wheel back to the workshop," Thomas said, standing. "Manufacture new spokes. Reset the rim. You can stay at the inn. I'll have it done by tomorrow evening." "How much?" "5 silver. Groska Ruby Heart, who had a coin purse in her pack that contained more gold than this village had probably seen in a year, felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Confused. 5 silver was nothing. 5 silver was the kind of money you gave servants as a casual bonus. 5 silver was what you paid for a decent meal, not skilled labor that would take most of a day. "That seems low," she said carefully. Thomas shrugged. "It's a wheel, not a cathedral. 5 silver for the work. 2 silver if you need new iron fittings." He started working the wheel free from the axle with a practiced efficiency that suggested he'd done this approximately 900 times before. His hands moved with the kind of certainty that doesn't require thought. Muscle memory turned into meditation. "I can pay more." Groska tried again. "Can you?" Thomas didn't look up. "Then pay someone who needs it more. I charge what the work is worth, not what people can afford." This was definitely not how these conversations usually went. A small voice piped up from behind her. "Are you a warrior?" Groska turned. The little girl couldn't have been more than 7. Blonde hair pulled back in 2 braids that had been done carefully but not expertly, the kind of braids that said father trying his best with daughter's hair tutorial. She wore a simple dress with patches at the knees and carried a slate with chalk marks that looked like arithmetic. "Lily," Thomas said without looking up. "What did we discuss about sneaking up on people?" "That it's only sneaking if they don't notice," Lily said promptly. She noticed. I could tell. Her hand moved to her belt where the knife probably is. Groska's hand was indeed near her belt where her knife definitely was. She moved it away slowly. "You're observant. Papa says observant is a nice word for nosy." Lily tilted her head, studying Groska with the unself-conscious fascination of children who haven't learned that staring is rude. "You are a warrior though, right? You have the shoulders. Papa says warriors have shoulders that look like they're arguing with their necks about who's in charge." Lily. "What? You did say that. Last week when old Benedict was telling his war stories again." Thomas had the expression of a man who was regretting approximately 47 parenting decisions at once. "Go check the soup. The soup is fine. Go check it anyway." Lily sighed the long-suffering sigh of children everywhere who are being unjustly persecuted by reasonable parental requests. She started walking back toward the workshop, then turned. "Are you staying for dinner?" "We're having vegetable soup. Again. It's getting really good. Papa's gotten very creative with vegetables." "Lily." "Just asking." She skipped away, slate tucked under one arm. Thomas didn't apologize for his daughter because Thomas had learned that apologizing for Lily was a full-time job that didn't pay well. Instead, he finished wrestling the wheel free and straightened, holding it in one hand. The wheel was large enough that most men would need both hands to carry it comfortably. Thomas carried it like it was a basket. "The Iron Boar Inn is 2 buildings down," he said, gesturing. "Margaret runs it. Tell her I sent you. She'll give you a fair rate." "And dinner?" Thomas paused. "The inn has dinner. Your daughter invited me. My daughter invites everyone. Last week she invited a traveling merchant's dog. We ended up with a dog at our dinner table. It was very awkward." "I'm not a dog." "No," Thomas agreed. "But you are a stranger. No offense meant. But Lily thinks everyone is a potential friend. I'm trying to teach her discernment. Is it working?" The dog was very polite, so no. Despite everything, the broken wagon, the dying sunlight, the entire weight of her secret identity, Groska laughed. A real laugh. The kind that surprised her because she couldn't remember the last time something had been genuinely funny instead of politically necessary to find amusing. "I should go," she said. "Wheel will be ready tomorrow, sundown. 5 silver. 7 if you need the fittings." Gruska Rubyheart walked toward the inn, and Thomas Ashford walked toward his workshop, and neither of them knew that this was the moment everything changed. Because some moments don't announce themselves. They just happen, quiet as a wheel breaking, certain as a wheel being fixed. Inevitable as a 7-year-old girl deciding that the giant orc warrior was obviously going to be her new friend, whether either of them liked it or not. The Iron Boar Inn was exactly what you'd expect from an establishment named after a pig and a medal. Sturdy, simple, smelling of bread and beer and the specific kind of wood smoke that said someone had been burning the same type of wood for 20 years and wasn't going to change now. Margaret was the kind of woman who looked like she'd been 40 years old for the past 30 years and planned to stay that way for the next 30 more. She took one look at Gruska, didn't blink, and said, "Room's 4 copper. Dinner's 2 copper. Bath is 1 copper. You break anything, you buy it. We had a troll 2 seasons back who didn't understand that furniture has weight limits. I understand it now. So does he. We have an arrangement. Thomas sent me. Thomas sends everyone. That man thinks hospitality is a competitive sport." Margaret handed over a key that looked like it had been forged sometime during the Bronze Age. "Room 3. Up the stairs, left. Dinner's in an hour. We serve what we have. We have stew. You'll eat stew. Any questions?" "No, ma'am." "Good. I like guests who understand how inns work." The room was small, clean. A bed that looked like it had been made by someone who understood that beds were for sleeping, not for impressing people with your bed-making skills. A window that looked out over the village square where absolutely nothing was happening because villages this small saved all their happening for daylight hours. Gruska sat on the bed, carefully. She'd learned to sit carefully on human furniture. She'd broken 3 chairs last year alone. The bed held. She removed her armor, piece by piece. Pauldrons that bore the mark of the Red Fang clan. 3 parallel claw marks that had been scratched into the metal by her father's own hand the day she earned command. Bracers from the Stoneback clan, given to her when she settled their 30-year blood feud, with nothing but words and one very memorable threat. The belt from the Ironjaw clan, presented after she'd personally pulled their chief's son from a collapsed mine and dug for 12 hours straight. Each piece represented something: power, achievement, debt owed or debt paid. She set them all aside and looked at herself in the small, somewhat cloudy mirror above the wash basin. Without the armor, she was just Gruska. Green skin, tusks that needed filing because she'd been grinding them again, stress habit her mother hated, hair that she kept in a warrior's braid because it was practical, and she'd never been much for impractical things. Amber eyes that had seen 300 battles and exactly 0 simple human craftsmen who charged 5 silver for work worth 30. She thought about Thomas, about his hands, about the way he'd looked at her like she was just someone with a problem he could solve, not a political entity to be navigated, or a threat to be assessed, or an opportunity to be exploited. She thought about Lily, about braids done carefully but not expertly, about vegetable soup eaten again because vegetables were probably cheaper than meat. She thought about the way Thomas had said, "I charge what the work is worth, not what people can afford." Gruska Rubyheart had commanded armies. She'd negotiated treaties. She'd once stared down a dragon who'd been quite rude about territorial disputes until she'd explained the situation in terms the dragon could understand, specifically terms involving her fist and the dragon's opinions becoming substantially more flexible, but she had no idea what to do with this. Dinner at the Iron Boar was the kind of dinner where everyone ate together at long tables and minded each other's business enthusiastically. The stew was surprisingly good. The bread was fresh. The company was loud and interested and exactly as intrusive as small village company always is. "So you're the one with the broken wagon," said an older man 2 seats down. He had a scar on his neck that he touched whenever he looked at her. Old Benedict, someone had called him. Former soldier, definitely. He had the eyes, the ones that had seen things they'd rather not discuss. "I'm the one with the broken wagon," Gruska confirmed. "Thomas fixing it. Tomorrow sundown. He'll do good work." Benedict nodded, touching the scar again. "Man's honest. Bit too honest sometimes, but honest. Lost his wife 3 years back. Fever took her. He's been father and mother both since. Does well enough. Lily's a good girl. She seems spirited. Spirit's one word for it." This from a rounder man with flour dusted in his beard even though dinner was 3 hours past. Willem, the miller. He had the look of someone who collected information the way other people collected coins. Very interested in everything, is our Lily. Questions for days. You have questions for days? You talk to Lily. She'll have opinions about them. Willem, Margaret called from behind the bar. Mind your tongue or mind the door. Just making conversation. Make it quieter. Groska ate her stew and listened to the village flow around her like water around stone. They were curious. Of course they were curious. She was 7 feet of green skin and muscle in a village where the tallest person was probably 6'3" and very proud of it. But they weren't afraid. Or if they were afraid, they were the kind of polite afraid that didn't interfere with hospitality. She thought about her father's halls, about councils where every word was weighed for advantage, where meals were negotiations and conversations were chess matches, and you never, ever relaxed, because relaxing meant losing, and losing meant potentially dying. This was different. After dinner, she walked. Dinner. The village at night was the kind of peaceful that made you understand why poets wrote bad poetry about rural life. Quiet. Stars overhead doing what stars did. Somewhere a dog barked. Somewhere else, someone was playing a lute with more enthusiasm than skill. She found herself standing outside Thomas's workshop without quite meaning to. The windows were lit. Warm orange light that said someone was working late. She could see him through the open front, back at his bench, working on the wheel. His daughter was there too, sitting at a smaller workbench with her slate, practicing her letters, or drawing. Hard to tell from this angle. Thomas said something. Lily laughed. A moment later, he ruffled her hair, the casual affection of a father who'd done this approximately 9,000 times and would do it 9,000 more. Groska watched. Not spying exactly, just watching. She wondered what it would be like, to be small and human and safe in a workshop that smelled of wood shavings and lamp oil, to have problems that could be solved with 5 silver and honest work, to be someone's daughter in a way that wasn't about politics or alliances or which clan you'd unite by marriage, to be simple. She walked back to the inn. The room was exactly as she'd left it, empty, clean, impersonal in the way that rooms are when they've never been anyone's home, just a series of places people sleep between somewhere and somewhere else. She lay down on the bed, carefully because habits, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow the wheel would be fixed. Tomorrow she'd pay 5 silver for work worth 30. Tomorrow she'd continue her journey to the Northern Territories where War Chief Kargath wanted to discuss a potential alliance that was actually a poorly disguised threat wrapped in diplomatic language. Tomorrow everything would be exactly as it always was. Groska Rubyheart, commander of 3 clans and daughter of the Unbroken, fell asleep thinking about vegetable soup and a little girl's carefully imperfect braids. Tomorrow came anyway, the way tomorrows do regardless of how you feel about them. Morning in a small village sounded different than morning in a war chief's fortress. Softer. Chickens instead of warriors. The clang of the blacksmith instead of the clash of training blades. People calling good morning to each other like they meant it instead of because ritual demanded it. Groska woke at dawn because warriors woke at dawn, regardless of whether there were any wars to fight. Mogra would be back today. She'd sent her bodyguard ahead to scout the northern route, and the stubborn woman would have covered 3 days' travel in 2 just to prove she could. She dressed carefully, put the armor back on, piece by piece, each one a mask, each one a reminder of who she was and who she couldn't stop being just because a village was peaceful and a craftsman was honest. The day stretched ahead like an unfilled obligation. She walked the village, not aimlessly. Groska didn't do aimless, but without specific destination, which for her was basically the same thing. The blacksmith nodded at her. The baker's wife waved. 3 children stopped playing their game of something involving a stick, and a very stressed-looking chicken to stare at her with open mouths until their mother shushed them. She ended up inevitably back at the workshop. Thomas was already working. The wheel was on his bench, partially reassembled. New spokes, carved by hand, she could see the knife marks, were being fitted one by one. He worked with the kind of focus that made the rest of the world irrelevant. This was meditation and craft and prayer all in one. "It's not done," he said without looking up. Somehow he'd known she was there. "Sundown," I said. "I know, I was just... Watching someone work is boring for everyone except the person working. I've watched many things. Boring wasn't usually the problem." Thomas fitted another spoke, tested it, adjusted the angle by maybe a 1/4 inch. Battles, among other things, must be different from this. Very different. In battles, if you make a mistake, people die. Here, Here, if I make a mistake, your wagon tips over and you have a bad day instead of a fatal one. Thomas reached for another spoke. Lower stakes, still matters. Just to fewer people. Does that make it less important? Depends on who you ask. He glanced at her finally. Quick look. Assessing. Not in the way soldiers assessed for threat, but in the way craftsmen assessed for understanding. If you're the person whose wagon I fixed wrong, it's the most important thing in your world that day. If you're a general planning a battle, one wagon doesn't matter. Perspective is a complicated thing. You don't sound like a carpenter. Good, I'm a wheelwright. Different skill. He set down the spoke and really looked at her this time. You don't sound like a traveler. What do I sound like? Someone who's not used to people disagreeing with her, or agreeing with her for the wrong reasons. Gruska felt something cold settle in her stomach. The moment when you realize someone sees more than you wanted them to see. That's oddly specific. I watch people. Not as good as Lily, that girl misses nothing, but I watch. You move like someone who's trained. Talk like someone who's educated. Pay attention like someone who's used to things being traps. Thomas turned back to the wheel. None of my business who you are. Just interesting that you're pretending not to be. I'm not pretending, then you're being. And that's fine too. He fitted another spoke. Either way, wheel's the same price. Work's the same work. Your business is your business. They sat in silence. Thomas worked. Gruska watched. The morning sun climbed higher, turning the workshop into a cave of golden light and floating dust motes. Papa! Lily burst through the door like a small blonde explosion. Papa, Mrs. Margaret says there's a... She stopped. Saw Gruska. Her face lit up. Oh, you're still here. Are you staying another day? Did the wheel break more? Papa, did the wheel break more? The wheel is behaving itself, Thomas said. What did Mrs. Margaret say? There's another orc at the inn. A lady orc. She's asking about... Lily looked at Gruska. Oh, probably about you. Mogra. Of course. Right on time. Exactly as reliable as always. I should... Gruska started to stand. Friend of yours? Thomas asked. My... Gruska paused. What was Mogra? Guard? Friend? The woman who'd known her since they were both children learning which end of a blade to hold. Yes. Friend. Then she's probably worried. You should go. Gruska stood. Started toward the door. Stopped. Turned back. Thank you. For the wheel. For not asking questions. Questions are free. Answers are expensive. I try not to spend what I don't have. She almost smiled. Almost. Then Lily said, Are you someone important? Lily? Thomas's voice had a warning in it. No, it's fine. Gruska knelt down, bringing herself to Lily's eye level. The girl didn't flinch. Didn't look away. Just studied her with those bright, curious eyes that hadn't learned to be afraid yet. What makes you think I'm important? Your armor is really nice. Like really, really nice. And you stand like Miss Agnes stands when she's teaching and wants everyone to pay attention. And Willem said, Lily. Willem said your coin purse looked heavy and... Lily, that's enough. But Lily was looking at Gruska with an expression that was part curiosity, part something else. Understanding, maybe. The kind of understanding that children sometimes have before adults teach them not to see. It's hard, isn't it? Lily said quietly. Being important. Having to be careful all the time. That's why you're pretending, right? So you can be not important for a little bit? Gruska felt something crack in her chest. Small crack. Nothing fatal. But there. Yes, she said. That's exactly why. That makes sense. Lily nodded seriously. Papa says everybody needs to be not important sometimes, even important people. Especially important people. She glanced at her father, then back at Gruska. Your secret's safe with me. I'm very good at secrets. Ask Papa. He told me his birthday was in 2 weeks, but it's actually next week and I haven't said anything. Lily, that's not... Thomas sighed. You just told her. She doesn't count. She's important. Important people have too many secrets to care about birthday secrets. Thomas looked at Gruska with the expression of a man who had long ago accepted that his daughter was a force of nature that could not be stopped, only redirected. I apologize for... Don't. Gruska stood. She's right. About the secrets. About needing to be not important sometimes. She looked at Lily. Thank you. For keeping my secret. You're welcome. Do you want to have dinner with us tonight? After Papa finishes the wheel, we're having vegetable soup. Again. But we have bread now. I helped bake it. It's only a little bit burned. Lily, the warrior lady has her own. I'd like that. Gruska heard herself say. Dinner. I'd like that very much. Thomas looked surprised. Lily looked delighted. Gruska felt confused about her own decision. Sundown, Thomas said. Wheel will be done. Soup will be ready. Bread will be whatever condition bread reaches when Lily helps bake it. It's fine bread, Papa. Of course it is. Groska left the workshop and walked back to the inn with a strange feeling in her chest. Not uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. It took her 3 blocks to identify it. Anticipation. She was looking forward to something. Not because it was politically necessary or strategically important or ritually required, just because she wanted to. When was the last time she'd wanted something that simple? Mogra was waiting at the inn, and Mogra was not pleased. This was evident in the way she was sharpening her daggers with aggressive focus, and the way her jaw was set in that specific expression that meant someone was about to get a lengthy lecture about proper security protocols. "Commander," Mogra said. Not Groska. Commander. Which meant they were being observed or Mogra was very angry or both. Mogra. The northern route is secure. Kargath's scouts are exactly where we expected them. There's a ford that's poorly guarded. They're using it to move supplies. We could. She stopped sharpening. Looked at Groska. Really looked. What happened? My wheel broke. And I got it fixed. And nothing. Wheel broke. Getting it fixed. Leaving tomorrow. Mogra's eyes narrowed. She'd known Groska for 23 years. You don't know someone that long without learning to read the spaces between their words. You're using your nothing is wrong voice. That's the voice you use when something is definitely wrong, but you don't want to admit it yet. Nothing is wrong. You're still here. The wagon could have been fixed hours ago if you just told them who you are and demanded priority. But you didn't. You're waiting. You never wait. Mogra set down the dagger. What happened? Groska sat. The chair creaked but held. There's a craftsman. Human. Widower. Has a daughter. He's fixing my wheel. And he charged me 5 silver. Mogra blinked. 5 silver? 5 silver. Commander, we could buy his entire workshop for 5 gold. 5 silver is what the work is worth, not what I can afford. He doesn't know who I am. He looked at the broken wheel, quoted a fair price, did honest work, didn't try to extort me, didn't fear me, didn't treat me like I was special or dangerous or valuable. Groska met her friend's eyes. He treated me like I was just someone who needed help. Oh, Mogra said quietly. Oh no. What? You like him? I don't. You absolutely do. Commander, we don't have time for you to like a human craftsman. We have approximately 16 political obligations, a war chief who wants to threaten you into an alliance, 2 clan disputes that need settling, and I'm having dinner with him tonight. Mogra dropped her whetstone. Your what? Dinner. Vegetable soup. His daughter invited me. I said yes. His daughter invited you, and you said yes to soup. Mogra pressed her hands to her face. By the ancestors, you're doing it again. Doing what again? The thing where you meet someone genuine and forget that you're the commander of 3 clans and start thinking maybe, just maybe, you could have a normal life. Mogra stood pacing. Remember that merchant's son in Granite Falls? The one who didn't know who you were? You almost married him before his mother recognized your clan markings and fainted directly into a soup tureen. That was different. It's always different right up until someone recognizes you and everything becomes complicated. Mogra stopped pacing. Looked at Groska with something that might have been pity, or might have been understanding, or might have been both. Commander, Groska, friend, you can't have normal. You're too important to have normal. One dinner is how it starts, then it's 2 dinners. Then you're thinking maybe you could stay a week. Then the little girl makes you a drawing and you put it in your pack and carry it to 3 diplomatic meetings. Then the father says something wise about wheels or doors or whatever craftsmen say wise things about, and you start thinking maybe he could understand your life. Then what? Then someone recognizes you. Then his whole life becomes political. Then he either gets crushed by the weight of your world or becomes part of it. And either way, he stops being the person you liked. Because you can't like him and be who you are. You have to choose. Groska sat in silence. Because Mogra was right. Mogra was almost always right about these things. I know, she said finally. I know it can't work. I know it's stupid. I know tomorrow we leave and this becomes a story I don't tell. But for tonight, can I just have tonight? Mogra sat back down, picked up her whetstone, started sharpening again, but slower this time, less aggressively. One night, but tomorrow we leave at dawn, before you get more attached, before he figures out who you are, before his daughter makes you something precious and you can't leave because leaving would hurt her feelings. Agreed. And I'm coming to dinner. What? If you're going to do something inadvisable, someone responsible should be there to prevent you from doing anything more inadvisable. Besides, Mogra shrugged. How bad can vegetable soup be? The answer, it turned out, was not bad at all, actually. Thomas's home was above the workshop, a small apartment that had been lived in and loved and cleaned approximately 40 times, because 7-year-olds had opinions about cleanliness that didn't always align with their actions. The table was small. The chairs were mismatched. The soup was served in bowls that didn't match each other but somehow matched the chaos of the space perfectly, and it was the best meal Groska had eaten in years. Not because the food was elaborate, not because there was wine from distant vineyards or meat prepared by master chefs, but because Lily talked constantly about everything and nothing, because Thomas listened with the patience of a saint, because Magra actually laughed at one of Lily's jokes, and because for 3 hours Groska Rubyheart was just Groska. So then, Lily was saying, the chicken. You remember the chicken, Papa? The chicken decided that the roof was its new home. It lived on the roof for 3 days. Everyone tried to get it down. Mrs. Margaret tried, Willem tried, even old Benedict tried, and he can barely walk upstairs anymore. Language, Thomas murmured. Sorry, he has difficulty with stairs. Better? Better. Anyway, the chicken finally came down on its own when it got hungry. Turns out chickens aren't great at long-term planning. Lily turned to Magra. Are orcs good at long-term planning? Magra, who'd been silent for most of the meal, smiled. Some orcs. Others think as far as the next battle and call it strategy. Which kind are you? The kind who makes sure Commander doesn't do anything she'll regret later. Is Commander your friend or your boss? Both. It's complicated. Being grown up sounds complicated. It is, Groska said. Very complicated. Lily considered this. Is being important complicated too? Lily, Thomas warned. What? You said I could ask questions. I said you could ask appropriate questions. How do I know which questions are appropriate if I don't ask them first? Thomas looked at Groska with an expression that said, help me. She didn't help him. She was enjoying this too much. Being important is very complicated, Groska said. Sometimes you make decisions that affect a lot of people. Sometimes those decisions are hard. Sometimes you make the right decision and people still get hurt. Sometimes you make the wrong decision and have to live with that. And sometimes, she looked at the simple meal, at the mismatched bowls, at Thomas's calloused hands and Lily's bright eyes. Sometimes you wonder if the people who aren't important are actually the smartest ones. That's sad, Lily said matter-of-factly. Being important shouldn't make you sad. When I grow up and get important, I'm going to be the happy kind of important. I hope you are, Groska said softly. I really hope you are. After dinner, Thomas showed them the finished wheel. It was beautiful. Not in a decorative way. Nothing about it was meant to be admired, but beautiful in the way that functional things are beautiful when they're made correctly. Each spoke fitted perfectly. The rim true. The iron band reset with precision that spoke of years of practice. It's perfect, Groska said. It'll get you where you're going. Thomas ran his hand along one spoke. Give you a few more years if you treat it right. Maybe more if you're lucky. Groska paid him. Not 5 silver. She left him 30 gold. She did it quietly, when he was distracted helping Lily clean up after dinner. Just set the small leather purse on his workbench and walked out before he could protest or return it or ask questions she didn't want to answer. It wasn't enough. Couldn't be enough. But it was something. She and Magra walked back to the inn under stars that were identical to the stars over her father's fortress, but somehow looked completely different here. That was nice, Magra said quietly. It was. The girl is clever. Too clever. The father is kind. Too kind. And you're leaving tomorrow. I have to. I know. Magra was quiet for a moment. But if you didn't have to, would you stay? Groska didn't answer, because they both already knew the answer. She didn't sleep well that night. Kept thinking about vegetable soup and a little girl who wanted to be the happy kind of important and a man who charged what the work was worth instead of what people could afford. Kept thinking about amber eyes and clan marks and the weight of armor that was also the weight of obligation. Kept thinking about how tomorrow she'd leave and this would all become a memory that hurt less as time passed, until eventually it would just be a pleasant story about a broken wheel and honest people. That's what she kept thinking. The universe had other plans. The morning revealed those plans in the form of approximately 40 orcs appearing on the village's main road at dawn. Not attacking, just appearing. In full ceremonial armor, carrying banners, looking extremely official and extremely intimidating and extremely wrong for a small village that hadn't seen more than 3 orcs at once in approximately ever. Groska woke to Magra pounding on her door. Commander, we have a problem. Groska was out of bed and into her armor in approximately 7 seconds flat. How big is the problem? Your father sent an honor guard. He what? Apparently he decided that his daughter shouldn't be traveling with minimal escort, so he sent 40 warriors, with your ceremonial banners. And possibly a marriage negotiator, though I'm still trying to confirm that last part. By the ancestors? There's more. There's more? They're asking for you by name, and title, and list of clans, very loudly, in the middle of the village, where everyone can hear. Groska looked out the window, saw the crowd, saw the banners, Red Fang, Stoneback, Ironjaw, saw her father's chief warrior, Drogtar, standing in the middle of the village square, bellowing, "Where is Groska Rubyheart, commander of 3 clans, daughter of Mazak the Unbroken, heir to the—" "Make him stop," Groska said quietly. "I tried. He has orders directly from your father. Apparently not finding you quickly enough would be dishonorable. I think your father is mad at you for taking this trip alone." Groska grabbed her armor, the real armor, the ceremonial pieces that announced exactly who she was, and started running. She made it to the square in time to see Thomas standing very still outside his workshop, Lily pressed against his leg, both of them staring at approximately 40 heavily armed orcs who had transformed their peaceful morning into something out of a fever dream. She made it in time to see old Benedict touching his neck scar rapidly, like a nervous tick on overdrive. She made it in time to see Willem's mouth opening and closing like a fish learning to breathe air. She made it in time to see Thomas's eyes find hers across the crowd, and she saw the exact moment he understood. Not all of it, but enough. "Commander," Drogtar spotted her. "There you are. We've been searching. The war chief demands you return immediately for the—" "Not now," Groska said. Her voice had changed, not in tone, but in texture. This was commander voice, the one that made people stop mid-sentence and reevaluate their choices. "We will discuss this, but not here. Not now. But Commander, I said not now." The square went silent. Even the chickens stopped making noise, which was impressive because chickens didn't usually care about dramatic moments. Groska walked across the square, toward Thomas. Every step felt like walking through mud, or honey, or some substance that made movement both inevitable and impossible. She stopped in front of him. "You lied," Thomas said. Not angry, just stating a fact, the way he'd stated that the wheel was broken or that soup was for dinner. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you who I was. That's what lying by omission means." "I know." Lily was looking between them with wide eyes that were starting to understand that something bad was happening, but not quite sure what yet. "The 30 gold, Thomas said. That was apology money. Or guilt money. Or it was what the work was actually worth. What I should have told you it was worth from the beginning. I charged you 5 silver. You charged me 5 silver. I paid you what it was worth. To me." Groska knelt down, putting herself at Thomas's eye level. "I'm sorry. For not being honest. For letting you think I was just someone passing through. For—" "Are you really a commander?" Lily asked. Small voice. Curious but worried. "Yes." "Of 3 clans?" "Yes." "Are you really, really rich?" "Yes." "Oh," Lily thought about this. "That makes the vegetable soup kind of sad, doesn't it? If you're really rich and you ate our vegetable soup and didn't say anything, that's really sad." Groska felt something break. Not crack. Break. Clean through. "It was the best soup I've ever had," she said. And meant it. "Liar," Lily said. But she said it like she wanted to believe otherwise. "Commander," Drogtar was approaching. "We really must—" "Give me 5 minutes," Groska said. Not a request. But the war chief will wait 5 more minutes. He's waited 30 years to arrange whatever he's arranged. He can wait 5 more minutes. Drogtar retreated. Wisely. Groska looked at Thomas, at his calloused hands and his honest face and his daughter pressed against his leg like she could protect him from this. From her. "I should have told you," she said. "Should have been honest from the beginning. But I haven't been just Groska in a very long time, and for one day I wanted to remember what that felt like. To be someone who needed help instead of someone everyone needs things from. To be—" She stopped. Started again. "To be not important. Like Lily said. You used us," Thomas said quietly. "No. Yes. Maybe. I don't know." Groska stood. "I don't know the right answer. I know that the wheel was really broken. I know the dinner was really nice. I know that your daughter is genuinely clever, and you're genuinely kind, and this village is genuinely good. I know all of that was real. The only lie was me pretending I was something I'm not. And what are you? Someone who commands 3 clans, Someone who can't afford to be simple. Someone who has obligations to approximately 3,000 orcs who depend on my decisions. Someone who, her voice cracked slightly, who really, really enjoyed vegetable soup with your daughter. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. The square was quiet. Even the orcs were quiet, though 40 armed warriors being quiet is a special kind of loud all on its own. The gold, Thomas said finally. I can't accept it. It's too much. It's not enough. Not for what you gave me. I gave you a fixed wheel. You gave me a day of being normal. You can't put a price on that. Believe me, I've tried. Thomas looked at her. Really looked. The way he'd looked at the broken wheel, assessing, understanding, seeing what was actually there instead of what he expected. You're going to leave, he said. Not a question. I have to. Today? Yes. And we'll never see you again. Probably not. That's sad too, Lily whispered. Yes, Groska said. It is. She reached into her pack, pulled out something small, the wooden spoke, the one Thomas had carved first before he'd made all the others. She'd kept it, had meant to keep it as a memory of the day she got to be not important. Now she held it out to Lily. This is from your papa's hands, she said. He made it. It's not valuable, not in gold, but it's valuable in the way that matters, in craft, in care, in someone taking time to make something right. She pressed it into Lily's small hands. Keep it. Remember that the most important people aren't always the ones everyone calls important. Sometimes they're wheelwrights who charge honest prices and make good soup and raise clever daughters. Lily took the spoke, held it like it was precious, which in its way it was. Will you be the happy kind of important? She asked. Groska smiled. It hurt. I'll try. I promise I'll try. She stood, looked at Thomas one more time, wanted to say something else, something meaningful, something that would make this less painful or more bearable or at least comprehensible. Settled for, thank you, for the wheel, for the soup, for not asking questions until you had to. You're welcome, Thomas said, then quieter. For what it's worth, you wore not important well, like you'd been practicing. Maybe in another life, Groska said. I'd get better at it. Maybe in this one too. If you ever find yourself with another broken wheel, it was a kindness, an offering. A door left open even though they both knew she'd never walk through it again. She turned, walked back to the gathered orcs, to Drogtar and Mogra and the weight of the 3 clan banners that marked her as something more and less than just Groska. We're leaving, she said. Now. But Commander, the war chief, can hear my report when I arrive. We leave now. They left. Groska didn't look back. Not because she didn't want to, but because she knew if she looked back, she'd see Thomas and Lily standing in the square. She'd see the workshop, the village, the life she couldn't have. And if she saw it, she might turn around. And if she turned around, she'd have to choose between the life she wanted and the life 3,000 orcs needed her to live. So she didn't look back. The road stretched ahead, long, familiar, leading to War Chief Kargath and political negotiations and decisions that would affect thousands, leading away from a small village and a simple man and his clever daughter, leading away from vegetable soup and honest prices and the kind of normal she'd tasted for exactly one day. Mogra rode up beside her, silent, understanding. You did the right thing, she said finally. Did I? You're commander of 3 clans. You have responsibilities. I know. You can't be both people. The one they need and the one you want to be. I know that too. So why does it hurt like you made the wrong choice? Groska didn't answer. Because she didn't have an answer. Or she had too many answers. Or the answers she had didn't fit the questions she was asking. They rode for 3 hours, then 6. Then they made camp because even commanders and their warriors needed to rest. Groska sat by the fire, not eating, just staring at the flames. Drogtar approached carefully. Commander, about the village. The war chief said, I don't care what the war chief said. But I don't care. Whatever political maneuvering he's doing, whatever marriage he's arranged, whatever alliance he's building, I don't care. Not tonight. Tonight I just want to sit here and think about a man who charged 5 silver for work worth 30 gold and didn't ask for more. Drogtar, who had known her since she was a child learning to hold a sword, looked at her with something that might have been pity or respect or both. The war chief thinks marriage to Kargath's son would unite 4 clans, he said quietly. I know what he thinks. And you think? I think some things are more valuable than uniting 4 clans, and I think I just left one of them behind in a village I'll never see again. She slept poorly, dreamed of workshops and wheels and a little girl saying, will you be the happy kind of important? She woke at dawn. They rode another day. Arrived at War Chief Kargath's fortress right on schedule. Met with him. Negotiated. Discussed terms. Listened to his son, a perfectly decent orc who would make a perfectly decent husband and create perfectly decent political stability. Explain why this marriage made sense. She said neither yes nor no. Said she'd consider it. Said many diplomatic things that meant nothing and everything. Later, alone in the guest chambers Kargath had provided, she sat on the bed. Large bed, designed for orcs. She didn't have to sit carefully, and thought about what choices actually meant. Her father wanted her to marry, to unite clans, to create stability through bloodlines and alliances. Kargath wanted the same. The clans needed it. 3,000 orcs depended on her making the smart choice, the political choice, the choice that served the greater good. Against all that weight, one human wheelwright didn't matter. One day of vegetable soup didn't matter. One little girl's question about being the happy kind of important didn't matter, except it did. Because Groska Rubyheart, commander of 3 clans, realized something sitting in that guest chamber. She'd been making choices for 3,000 orcs for 10 years. She'd never once made a choice for herself. Not once. Every decision weighed against clan needs, political necessities, strategic advantages, what the war chief wanted, what the clans needed, what honor demanded, never what she wanted. And Thomas, simple, honest Thomas who charged what the work was worth, had given her exactly 1 day of making a choice that was hers alone. Dinner. Not because it was smart or political or necessary, just because she wanted to. 1 day, in 10 years. 1 day. Groska stood, walked to the window, looked out at Kargath's fortress, impressive walls, strong gates, warriors training in the yards below. All of it built on the principle that individual wants mattered less than collective needs. All of it probably correct. All of it may be wrong. She thought about Lily asking if she'd be the happy kind of important. She thought about Thomas saying maybe in this one too, if you ever find yourself with another broken wheel. She thought about Magra saying you can't be both people, the one they need and the one you want to be. And Groska Rubyheart, commander of 3 clans, made a decision. It took her 4 days to ride back. 4 days of Magra asking increasingly concerned questions. 4 days of not entirely knowing if this was the right choice or the worst choice or simply a choice that was hers. 4 days to get back to a village that probably didn't want to see her again. She arrived at sunset. Of course at sunset. Everything important seemed to happen at sunset in this particular corner of the world. The village looked exactly the same. Small, peaceful. Chickens doing chicken things. People doing people things. No one expecting an orc commander to ride back into their lives. Thomas's workshop was open. He was at his bench, working on something. Chair, maybe. Hard to tell from this angle. Groska dismounted, walked across the square that was much emptier and quieter than it had been 4 days ago when 40 orcs had announced her identity to everyone with ears. She stopped in the workshop doorway. Thomas looked up. Broken wheel? He asked. Almost smiled. Almost. Broken life, Groska said. Think you can fix it? Depends how broken. Some things can't be fixed. No point discussing price for impossible. What if it's not impossible? What if it's just complicated? Thomas set down his tools, stood, looked at her the way he'd looked at her that first day, assessing, understanding, seeing what was actually there. Why did you come back? Because my father wants me to marry a war chief's son. Because 3 clans need political stability. Because I have obligations to 3,000 orcs. Because every good reason says I should be anywhere but here. That's a lot of reasons not to be here. I know. But there's one reason that matters more. What's that? Your daughter asked me if I'd be the happy kind of important. And I realized I've spent 10 years being the other kind. The kind that makes good decisions and serves the greater good and sacrifices personal wants for political needs. And all of that is right. All of that is correct. All of that is exactly what a good commander should do. She stepped into the workshop. 1 step, then another. But I don't want to be just a good commander anymore. I want to be... She stopped, started again. I want to be the kind of person who gets to eat vegetable soup with a clever 7-year-old and her honest father. I want to have broken wheels fixed for 5 silver even though I can afford 500 gold. I want to be not important sometimes. I want to make choices that are just mine, even if they're wrong, even if they're selfish, even if they hurt the greater good. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. That's not a small thing you're asking for. I know. Your clans will adapt. Or they won't. But I can't keep being everything they need if I'm nothing I want. I'll break. And when I break, I won't be useful to anyone. Your father will be angry for approximately a year. Then he'll find another way to create political stability. He's creative like that. The village will talk a lot about the orc commander who fell for a wheelwright, about how strange it is, about how it shouldn't work. They'll be right about all of it. Gruska moved closer. But I'm hoping maybe, possibly, one person in this village might think it's worth trying anyway. Thomas looked at her. Really looked. The way you look at something you're trying to understand, because the answer matters more than anything. I have a 7-year-old daughter, he said. I know. She's very clever. I live in a workshop above a village where the most exciting thing that happened last year was a chicken living on a roof. I heard about that. Chickens aren't great at long-term planning, apparently. I can't give you armies or gold or political stability. I have armies and gold, and I'm sick of political stability. I charge 5 silver for honest work. I know. It's my favorite thing about you. Thomas smiled. Small smile. Real smile. The kind that said he was making a decision that was probably wrong and definitely complicated and absolutely right. Lily will have questions, he said. Lily always has questions. She'll want to know if you're staying. Am I? Thomas looked at her. Thought about broken wheels and honest prices and commanders who wanted to be not important sometimes. Thought about his daughter who asked about happiness and importance like they were supposed to go together. Thought about his late wife who would have either loved this or been horrified by this or possibly both. That depends, he said. Can commanders do carpentry? I broke 47 wagons in my lifetime. I think I know enough about wood to learn how to not break it. That's terrible logic. It's orc logic. We're not always great at human reasoning. I noticed. Gruska stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the wood dust in his hair, the calluses on his hands, the uncertain hope in his eyes. I can't promise it'll be easy, she said. My father will visit, probably with warriors, possibly with disappointment speeches. My clans will have opinions. The village will definitely have opinions. And there will be days when you'll wonder if you made a terrible choice letting an orc commander into your quiet life. Probably. But I can promise I'll learn to make vegetable soup. I'll be terrible at it initially, but I'll learn. I can promise I'll try to be the happy kind of important. I can promise your daughter will have someone who understands what it's like to be asked questions you don't have answers for. And I can promise, her voice went quieter, that I will never lie about who I am again. Rich or poor, important or not, I'll just be Gruska. If that's enough. That's enough, Thomas said, and kissed her. Not dramatically, not with passion that would make poets weep, just kissed her. Simple, honest, the kind of kiss that said, this is probably unwise, but we're doing it anyway. Gruska kissed him back, and thought about wheels and prices and the kind of wealth that had nothing to do with gold. The door banged open. Lily stood there, holding the wooden spoke, eyes wide. You came back. Then, immediately, are you staying? Are you staying forever? Can you teach me orc words? Do orcs celebrate birthdays? Can I learn to use a sword? Papa, can I learn to use a sword? Can I call her? Lily stopped. Thought, what should I call you? Gruska knelt down, eye level with the little girl who'd asked the most important question anyone had ever asked her. Gruska, she said. Just Gruska. That's a good name, Lily said seriously. Better than Commander. Commander sounds like someone who doesn't have time for questions. I'll always have time for your questions. Even the ones Papa says are inappropriate. Especially those ones. Lily grinned, then threw her arms around Gruska's neck, completely fearless, completely trusting, completely unaware that orc commanders were supposed to be intimidating. Gruska hugged her back, carefully, because even not important commanders knew that little girls were precious and breakable and the best kind of responsibility. Thomas watched his daughter hugging an orc war chief's daughter and thought, this is insane. This will never work. Everyone will think we're crazy. The village will talk for years. Her father will probably try to kill me. Political complications will follow us everywhere. Our lives will never be simple again. Then he thought, but maybe happiness isn't supposed to be simple. Maybe it's supposed to be complicated and messy, and full of inappropriate questions, and vegetable soup, and orcs who want to learn carpentry. Maybe that's exactly what happiness is supposed to be. He looked at Gruska. She looked back, and in that look was understanding. The kind that doesn't need words. The kind that says, this is crazy and we're doing it anyway, and whatever happens next, we'll figure it out together. Mugra appeared in the doorway, weapons drawn, looking alarmed. Commander, I heard... She stopped. Saw Groska hugging a child, saw Thomas watching with soft eyes, saw the whole impossible scene. Oh no, you're doing the thing. I'm doing the thing, Groska confirmed. The thing where you forget you're a commander and pretend you can have normal. I'm not pretending this time. Commander, Groska, friend. This is my choice, Groska said firmly. Mine, not the clan's, not my father's, not yours, mine. Mogra looked at Thomas, back at Groska. Sighed the long-suffering sigh of bodyguards everywhere who know their charge is making inadvisable decisions but can't actually stop them. Fine, but I'm staying. Someone needs to prevent you from doing even more inadvisable things, like learning carpentry. Do you know what you'll do with access to hammers? Learn to use them. That's what I'm afraid of. The village did talk, for years, about the orc commander who stayed, about Thomas the wheelwright who courted someone who could literally pick him up and throw him if she wanted, about little Lily who suddenly had the most interesting family arrangement in 5 territories. The talk died down, eventually, not because people stopped finding it interesting, but because after a while, interesting became normal. Groska walking to the market became routine. Mogra teaching village children knife safety became Tuesday mornings. The workshop that said Ashford and Daughter repairs, adding a smaller sign underneath that read and Groska, became just how things were. War Chief Mazak visited. Once. With warriors. With disappointment speeches. With political lectures about duty and obligation and what commanders owed their clans. He left after meeting Lily, who asked him approximately 40 questions about orc history, showed him a knife Mogra had taught her to use, and informed him that his daughter made okay vegetable soup, but it's getting better. He left, saying nothing had changed. But Thomas saw him smile once, small smile. The kind that said, maybe my daughter made the right choice after all. The clans adapted, some better than others. Political stability was created through other means. Treaties and trade and the kind of diplomacy that didn't require anyone's daughter marrying anyone's son for alliances. And Groska learned carpentry, slowly, badly at first, but she learned. She learned that wood had grain and you worked with it, not against it. She learned that some things could be fixed and some things needed to be rebuilt from scratch. She learned that broken wasn't the same as unfixable. She learned that the most valuable things couldn't be bought with gold. They had to be earned with calloused hands and honest work and time spent alongside people who saw you not as a title, but as a person. She learned that happiness wasn't simple, but complicated happiness was still happiness. Years later, when Lily was 15 and learning the workshop trade herself, she asked Groska a question. They were working late. Thomas had gone to bed, age was catching him, though he'd never admit it. It was just the two of them, wood shavings on the floor, lamp oil burning low. Was it worth it? Lily asked. Giving up being important? Groska looked at the girl, not so little anymore, tall and clever and asking the kinds of questions that mattered, and smiled. I didn't give up being important, she said. I just changed who I was important to. That's a good answer. It's the true answer. Are you happy? The happy kind of important? Groska thought about vegetable soup that got better over the years, about Thomas's hands finding hers across the dinner table, about Mogra teaching knife safety to village children, about her father visiting once a year and pretending he wasn't proud, about a workshop that smelled of wood and oil and home. Yes, she said. I'm the happy kind of important. Good, Lily said, because Papa was worried. He thought maybe you'd regret it. Tell him I don't. Tell him. Groska picked up the wooden spoke, the first one Thomas had made all those years ago, the one Lily had kept and now hung above the workshop door as a reminder. Tell him that some wheels break at exactly the right moment, when you're 3 hours from anywhere that matters, when you're ready for something to change, when you're ready to stop being who everyone needs you to be and start being who you actually are. That's very philosophical for someone who broke 47 wagons. I've learned things since then. Like what? Like the bravest thing a warrior can do isn't fight. It's choose peace. Choose ordinary. Choose the simple happiness of a well-fixed wheel and honest work and people who matter more than armies ever could. Lily was quiet for a moment. When I grow up, she said, I want to be important like you. Complicated and messy and constantly questioned by daughters who ask inappropriate questions. Exactly like that, Lily said, grinning. Groska laughed. Real laugh. The kind that came from deep in her chest and meant something. She thought about the moment she'd walked into a small village with a broken wheel and no idea her life was about to change. She thought about Thomas looking at her like she was just someone who needed help. She thought about learning that the richest things had nothing to do with gold. They were made of wood shavings and patient hands, and love that didn't care about titles or clans or political complications. And Groska Rubyheart, former commander of 3 clans, current village carpenter and happy kind of important, went back to work on the chair she was building. It wasn't perfect. Few things were. But it was honest work, done with care, for people who mattered. And that, she had learned, was worth more than all the gold in all the clans and all the territories combined. Some things can't be bought. Some things can only be built. One careful decision at a time. One simple choice. One broken wheel that led to everything. The end is never really the end when you're building something that lasts. It's just the moment you step back, look at what you've made and think, yes, this is good. This is right. This is worth every complicated, messy, beautiful moment it took to get here. And then you pick up your tools and start on the next thing. Because there's always a next thing when you're building a life worth living. Blood makes you orc. Loyalty makes you family. But happiness? That's something you build yourself, one honest choice at a time.